Welcome to The Frequency. I'm your host, Dee Barnes, right here on the Black Star Network. And you know that I love hip hop, and we're celebrating the 50th anniversary of hip hop. And I have to elevate the women of the culture. And one of the women in particular I'm having on today's episode is a dancer, choreographer, gymnast, radio personality, television actress. She's all things everywhere. I can't wait to talk to her and get into her whole career. You might recognize her. You might know her name. She's known as Big Les, my sister, Leslie Seagar. What's up in the house? Leslie, bring her in, bring her in. I was stumbling through that intro because your resume is off the chain. I mean, actress, radio personality, dancer, choreographer, gymnast. Like, did I miss something? I know I missed something.
I have no idea. I'm just so excited to be here. Because first of all, listen, I know you said that this is your little series. First of all, nothing that you and I have done is little. Let's claim that.
That's right. All,
you paved the way for me.
Oh my God,
give you my flowers, because to see women on TV in hip hop in this male-dominated thing, and you were still sexy, but you were journalistic. You had knowledge about hip hop. You made me feel like you were my around the way girl sister. I felt comfortable. I took tips from you when I started Rap City. So thank you for all that you've done, all that you've endured, all that you've taught us. Mwah! And no, you were before me, and I love you.
I love you, sis. Thank you. I'm supposed to be giving you your virtual flowers, and you giving me mine, and I appreciate that. And see, that's what I mean about this, like the sisterhood that we have. It transcends, hip hop. It goes through life, and we've known each other for a long, long time. And I really want people to know who you are and all your accomplishments. This is what this is about right now. So let's start at the beginning, please. Tell me, where'd you grow up?
I am a girl from Queens, New York. I grew up in a little city called East Elmhurst, where...
I was born in East Elmhurst.
You're lying.
I did not know that. Yo!
Listen, it's crazy. That's crazy.
That's crazy, because I knew you were from Queens, but I didn't know it was from Elmhurst. Same.
Girl, and oh my goodness, this is how beautiful our little community is, right? Because we're like literally 10, 15 minutes outside of Manhattan. But for me and my sister, who was older, went to school with like Herbie Lovebug, Kid and Play. Wow. And I went to school with DJ Wiz, which is their DJ. Me and Positive K graduated high school together. So I've known all of them since our jams in the park and Herbie Lovebug. So we've all been a family since I was like 10. So there's something in the water in Queens.
There's something in the water in Queens. I didn't get to go to school there. We wound up moving to Jersey. I was in Jersey for a while, and we moved upstate. But tell me more about your background and how you first fell in love with hip hop.
I mean, first of all, when you're a New York City kid, growing up in like the 70s and the 80s, even though I'm 22 forever.
Hello. That's right.
We like our order. Yeah, seriously. But we've been exposed to hip hop, the jams in the park, because we played outside then, and that's when everybody was on the handball court.
Outside.
Right, handball court doing double dutch. And so everybody was like already on the side breakdancing in the jams in the park, and you had to be back before, the street lights came on. Right. And then high school and junior high school and elementary school was always a fashion show, right? So back then it was like the name belts, the name rings, the members only jackets, the jeans, the sheepskin coats, and, the Stacey Adams, like all of that stuff was embedded in us,
True.
The graffiti on the trains, the break dancers like in the streets. So that was my whole surroundings, right? Our minds were just everywhere all the time, and the roller skating rinks were popping. OSA roller skating rink in Queens was like my home away from home.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then you start venturing out into the city because, as a latchkey child, and for those people who don't understand, whether you're in a one-parent or two-parent home, your parents are working, which means you have to feed yourself, you got to learn how to cook, you wear your key around your neck, you got to let yourself in, do your homework, and you're really independent at like 9 or 10 years old, taking the bus, taking the train by yourself. So you're really exposed, and your head is on a swivel. And so all the senses of music and style and fashion and attitude and, us watching, having eyes in the back of our head, all of that stuff speaks to me of hip hop. And so that's kind of, the area I grew up in.
That's amazing. And it's so true because you do absorb your environment, and the environment was just full of it, full of the culture, basically.
For sure.
So when did you get into dancing?
Oh gosh, your mother puts you in like
Right.
a ballet school or whatever, but I was such a tom girl and I always hung out with boys. And so, we hung out in the park where you're doing flips and stuff on the grass and climbing trees. And I would always tear up my mother's house, like doing backflips, knocking over furniture and the lamps and stuff, because I watched like Wild World of Sports Gymnastics on Saturday mornings, right? And I would see Diane Durham, who was this Black girl doing gymnastics. And so my mom's like, my mom put me into a trampoline class first. See, because dancing didn't come till later for me.
Okay.
So I
started off with
gymnastics. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was in a trampoline class for like a month, and the guy was like, she's really good. She needs to be at this gymnastic class at the YMCA in Flushing, Queens. Right. So next thing you know, within a year, I was competing in national competition. And I started late. I started at like 10 years old, but most gymnasts start when they're like 2, 3, 4. So for me to be competing like at 11, 12 at a much higher level I absorbed really, really fast. And so gymnastics became my life. But because I hung out at the roller skating rink, I was exposed to like, the Rocksteady crew early days, people on the skates battling. So I would just be like, oh, and I would see them flip. But then I was too nervous until I actually became like a club kid, start sneaking into the clubs. Yeah. Right.
And I know about that.
Yeah. And then I didn't see any girls, not really, like maybe one or two little girls pop locking back then. And then the movies came out like Crush Groove and all that stuff. And then house music came, like we're going further down away from hip hop, and house music just kind of sucked me in, and it was freestyle dance.
I loved it.
Yeah, and all the bouncers would let all of us dancers in the club for free because they knew we would keep the party going. So I never really had to pay the club. I was always like 14 or 15 because I looked older. So I was like in it. My mom let me go out and play because I did well in school. So I really like got to push my curfew a bit. So I got to kind of hang out. And then being exposed to everything, the roller skate, everybody performed at the roller skating rink. Like, KRS-One,
I remember
Danny, Melly Mel, like all those early Roxanne Shante. So I was exposed to all of that, So
one of my favorite, not to cut you off, one of my favorite shows you just remind me of a roller skating rink was I saw Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, which one of them was Andre Harrell, and then it was Dougie Fresh and Slick Rick. That's wild. Yeah, the roller skating ring is something else. It's something that's deep in the culture. And I don't think people really talk about it enough, but that's how we saw a lot of our like first performances. I mean, I saw Davy D. Remember, 1 for the trouble, 2 for the bass.
Come on, Davy. That was Davy. Let's rock this place.
Yes. And I think one of my favorite shows, and I was doing the same thing, sneaking out, going to the club, not supposed to be in there. My mom, she kind of knew about it. She's finding out about it now.
Right.
But, I was a good kid, so I was allowed to get out there and mingle. And my first thing with the hip hop was trying to do the art, because I love, just drawing. And I tried to get in with the graffiti crews and was getting into a little bit of trouble with that. And I did try my hand at breaking. I was good at the pop locking, but I could never get the breaking. Did you actually do some break dancing?
No, I tried a little bit, but I think because I was so properly trained, it took me a minute to learn how to like let all of that go. So that's like even now when you see jazz dancers trying to do hip hop, they're so upright and perfect that you got to find that pocket and that grit, and it takes them a minute. You can kind of tell the difference between trained and untrained dancers. But that's one thing about, I think, growing up in the East Coast is that, and especially being so young, you really are sucked in and absorbed into all these smells of hip hop, the taste, the colors, the attitude, the swag, the fashion, the graffiti. Like people who go to New York now, I feel bad for them because you got like the Disneyland version of New York.
It really is.
We have
my God.
Second Street, the porn stars, the porn shops, and the Israelites on the corner preaching while everybody had their linoleum on the left side. And no matter how dirty, and even the rats were hip hop. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah. It's a whole different vibe now. It's a wild vibe now. Well, I want to get into when you started dancing professionally, but we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to be back with Big Les, and we're going to talk about her career as a dancer. Yes, y'all. Right here on the Black Star Network, you're watching Frequency.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Back right here in the frequency, we're talking to Big Les, and now we're getting ready to go into your dancing career. I mean, I know you went around, you wound up being a professional dancer. So I want to break down you've done a lot of iconic videos, and I mean, a lot of people don't know. I know what they are, but let's talk about them.
I don't even know how
transition to when you became like professional, when you went from the clubs to like professional dancing.
Well, I got a full gymnastics scholarship to Springfield College in Massachusetts, right? It was all about gymnastics for me every day of my life. But and I got into a 5-year master's.
You wanted to be when you were like thinking about when you would grow up that I want to be in gymnastics? Or
for sure. My whole world revolved around gymnastics, like everything, because it was me every day, 6 days a week with these people doing competition. Like, I mean, I hung out still, but it was all about gymnastics for me. I didn't even, all the colleges I applied to had to have a gymnastic team. And at that time, they didn't have an HBCU team the way they have like Fisk University now.
Yeah.
So once I got into a 5-year master's program for sports medicine, but you can only compete NCAA for 4 years. So like year 4, I was like, okay, I'm not staying. I need to go to Broadway. I got to get out of here.
Right. How was it being a young Black woman as a gymnast? Because there wasn't that many.
No, there were barely any.
Right.
Literally in my whole career, I never saw another girl who looked like me. Maybe one or two, Jody Brockington, who was like my competition at the Westside YMCA, like one person, maybe two. But really not in my college career. And I went to school in New England, which is really predominantly more white than anything.
Right.
But I was used to it. You know, I was in all honors classes from like 3rd through high school through 12th grade.
And brainiac, beauty and brains. Okay.
Thank you. Okay. There were only like a small handful of Black people in those classes. And we used to get picked on, right? Because we got special privileges. We got to go on like these field trips, or you think you blah, 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 you know, all of that Black girl energy from, you know, when you're 10 and 12 and whatever.
Exactly.
So when I left Springfield College, my mother was like mad because I opted out of this, you know, 5th-year program. And she's like, well, you got like 6 months to get it together and figure it out, you know, before you got to get your own place. Who wants to move back home after you've been away?
Right.
And literally the first thing I auditioned for was a play called Club 12, which was a remake of Shakespeare's Twelfth Night. And in that play was done by Atlantic Records, Big Beat Records at the time. And Wyclef was in the play. We called him now by his government name. So he actually scored the music for the show. And I was one of the dancers and actors and stuff. And then it was this whole community of backpack kids who we all hung out in Soho and the Greenwich Village and stuff. And this was during the era where everybody hung out in the clubs, all the executives, all the label heads, all the artists. There was not like barely any red velvet rope in the VIP section. Like everybody was accessible and they had business cards. So they would see me battling and dancing and, you know, carrying on in the club and beating the guys or whatever. And they'd be like, yo, I need you in my music video. Yo, I got this artist. I want you to work. Yo. And so actually picking up these cards and calling them, they actually pick up the phone, you know, they would call back. They were like, come down to this audition. And so I started working with artists. First it was like Jay Williams, who was a huge house music artist. And he had a really big song called Sweat. And so we started touring, like doing all the clubs, 4 in the morning, 3 clubs a night, which was the best. Going back from like Zanzibar, New Jersey, Club 88, back to like the Shelter and the Paradise Garage in New York. Like it was those kind of things. And people would see me. And then I did this one gig where I was a cheerleader for Full Force, Megan Lou and their whole group. They did a celebrity basketball game at WBLS radio station. And they had cheerleaders, which I've never really cheerleaded before, but I'm like, I can dance, I can figure it out.
Right.
I did a series of backflips across the whole gym. Everybody and their mother happened to be at this game. And I mean, every celebrity, every record label, every whatever. By the time I got to before my locker room into the back, I had business cards like, please come dance with my artist. We need to work with you, blah, 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 blah. And then that's kind of really how the floodgates just started to open, you know? I started booking gigs like for LL's Around the Way Girl. I had done a series of like house music and some other underground stuff, but that was probably like one of my first big profile music videos.
The LL, So let's break down all of the music videos. So LL was the first one, right? The Around the Way Girl?
I believe so. Like I have some house music videos that came before then, like a diva, if you remember her. Just a little bit respect. Everybody knows. So not that video, but another song of hers. So there were just so many. But really what happened for me, and I don't want to say the year, is I booked a tour, the Keith Sweat, BBD and Johnny Gill Triple Threat Tour. And I became Keith Sweat's backup dancer. And this was my first tour, and I was still working a 9 to 5. And I was like, oh my God, I'm not going to have any job security, right? Because we didn't have agents, we didn't have contracts. There was none of that stuff. And so this job let me take a leave of absence. You know, I was doing like exercise physiology where I was training people for the marathon. And when you see people hooked up to tubes and breathing and stuff. And so I was the technician preparing them for the marathons, working with paraplegic people, all of that stuff. And I was just like, okay, I could take a leave of absence, hopped on this tour, and I never had to go back to work. Every other job I got after that was because I think the next tour was because Damian Hall and Teddy and Aaron were in the backstage like, yo, you need to dance for us. And next thing you know, I hop on their tour. And then it's like Mary J. Blige. And then Puffy and I have been friends because he was a club kid. And he was like, yo, I got this girl. I need you. Mary, she can sing. And she needs you because you got that rough, rugged, and raw. You know how Puffy talks. He was like, get your crew, come on, and, you know, let's do this. And so he hired me, and everybody assumed that I was the choreographer at that time. Because I was a featured dancer in most of the music videos. So I started to realize some of the choreographers who were hiring us would be like, come in ill prepared and be like, okay, y'all, I need an 8 count, or I need, you know, whatever. And I'm like, well, why are we doing your work and you're getting the credit and the check? So people ask me, do you choreograph? And I'd be like, yes, because I choreographed floor routines and gymnastics. So I was like, I can make the transition. So when Puppy asked me to choreograph Mary's first songs, Real Love and You Remind Me, I was like, absolutely, I'm in. Let's get it. You know?
Oh my goodness, that is iconic right there. So you choreographed Real Love, and didn't it win an MTV award?
We got nominated. We lost to In Vogue, Free Your Mind. I was like, what? They just walked up and down. What do you mean? You know,
that's right. Yeah, no, but I know
I love them. I love them.
You should. Yes, I do. I love them too. But you definitely put in the work for that Mary J. Blige one. Okay, so what came after that?
Oh boy,
after Mary,
I think after Mary might have been Bobby Brown.
Oh yes,
yeah.
Bobby Brown era.
Right. So we did like the Humping Around music video.
And these are videos you choreographed, right?
Yes, choreographed. And then also went on the Bobby's Back tour, which was a really big, huge tour. Who was that? Us, TLC, I think. And I forget who else was on that tour, which was really good. And because having worked with Bobby, we transitioned into Whitney was always on the road with us. You know, Whitney they started dating while we were on there. We had gone to the wedding. But what a lot of people don't realize is that artists always gravitate toward the dancers, right? Their families give them drama. People always got their hands out, wanting something from them. And the dancers just are in the corner minding their business, grooving. They're, you know, kindred souls.
Exactly.
And so they always kind of hang out with us so they feel safe around us. And Whitney, a lot of people didn't know, she literally is an Around the Way girl, popping guns,
really
shit. That, like you guys learned out later down the line, but she was always like that with us, and we always hung out. And she was like, I need you girls dancing for me, which is how I'm Every Woman happened, right? We were dancing with Bobby, and she's like, nope, you girls are coming with me. And so when Bobby got off tour, some of those girls actually went on tour with Whitney. After I did that video, I think I went out with Heavy D.
Wow.
I think that's when the transition happened. My timeline's a little off. And
you made me think about it. Not to cut you off with Hev, because I want to hear this story about Heavy D and miss him so much. But you made me think about Whitney too. You're absolutely right, because my mom actually worked with Sissy Houston at the Urban League. And, I had met Whitney, when she was still modeling.
Right.
And then we fast forward to years later, and Ricky Harris, my ex-husband, he was on tour with Bobby. It was like Bobby Brown, MC Hammer, a few other, I forgot the name of that tour. And I would see Whitney. By then, I think they were married, and I would see Whitney on the tour. She's so wonderful. I think about all that, especially now, it's Women's History Month, and I'm thinking about her and her whole legacy and how it ties in with everything that you're talking about.
It's so great, and how blessed we are to have met all of these people. Like today, I'm still in shock that my mother's like, how did these cartwheels get you over in Paris? We're in London at the such and such dome and all these places. Right. She's trying to figure it out still to this day. But that's the thing. And I always tell people or parents, nurture whatever you see in your kids artistically. Don't push doctor, lawyer, and all that other stuff. If you see them with a gift, whether it's painting, whether it's music, whether it's production, nurture it. They could be the next Quincy Jones. They could be the next Da Vinci. They could be the next whoever.
Exactly.
Nurture it,
You're absolutely right. Now let's transition back to what you were saying about your next venture with Heavy D.
Yeah, I believe Heavy was next. There's like music videos and stuff in between. The one thing about the dancer is that because there's no job security, is that when you're in one job, you actually have to look for the next job, right? Because the tour is going to end. And even like on the Keith Sweat tour, he broke his foot. So we were like, oh my God, I'm going to have to go back to a 9 to 5. Oh my God, what's going to happen? We don't have contracts, whatever. But he endured, and he stayed performing with a cast on. But anything could have happened, right? And so the tour is 4 months or 5 months. You don't know if they're going to do a second leg. So you have to have your next jobs booked before you, leave, or even in between. If you have 4 days off and you can fly back to New York, shoot a video, that, because that's the life of a dancer, right? They're really, unless you're on a Vegas gig or something really long term, you fend for yourself. So I've been working for myself since, the ages,
forever. And how did you, thinking about that now, and I've never thought about it before, you just made me feel like you have to also protect yourself and keep yourself healthy. Like what happens if a dancer hurts himself? It wasn't like insurance. It wasn't like health insurance,
That's part of the argument today, and why they have created the Dancers Alliance Network, is that because especially then, there were no agencies, right? And even though you're kind of insured a bit while you're on tour, what happens in between? What happens just per gig, right? And we're still, thank God I was able to name my rate because people were calling me. So I got to get paid way above standard level. But there are some dancers even today who are making what I was making 20 years ago. You know what I mean?
Are you kidding me?
Which is crazy. And that's like, we're athletes. Our career span is very, very short. And we can get hurt just like a basketball player.
Exactly.
And I always compare it to like supermodels. You see them, they walk down the runway for 10 seconds, getting $15,000, $20,000 because they were born beautiful. I was like, let's switch places for a second. Come to one of our rehearsals, see if you can handle an hour. I bet you we can still walk the runway, even though we're not 6'2". But let's go ahead and switch paychecks at the same time, and let's just see. We're both representing $1 million brands, right? The music industry and the fashion industry.
Exactly.
So it's always been a struggle for us still.
I want to talk more about that. What did you just name the agency you said? The
Dancers Alliance Network?
Dancers Alliance Network. All right. When we come back from the break, we're going to talk more about the risks that dancers take when they're out there performing right here on the Frequency, Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this
this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Back right here on The Frequency, we're talking to Big Les and talking about her contributions to hip hop. And right now we're focusing in on dancers and the risks that they take when they're out performing. Now, Les, you were telling me about this alliance called, again, one more time.
Dancers Alliance Network.
Dancers Alliance.
Yeah.
When did that start?
Oh, it's probably within the last 3 to 5 years. So we're talking that it's, dancers have been fighting a long time with like SAG and AFTRA to try and get more money to change the rates. But it really took a cluster of other dancers in this new millennium kind of a way to really just like step up and really, but it's still a fight. It's still a fight. We are in hours and hours of rehearsals, 8 hours, 10 hours, days at a time before a tour. So you can get hurt in rehearsal and completely just be gone from the tour, which means now how do I eat, right? Because there's more insurance, there's anything. We walk down the street, trip on the subway stairs. How do we eat? Exactly. So it's always been a fight, getting paid per the rate that they're getting paid really just doesn't suffice. And it's not fair, having to travel, figure out wardrobe, rehearsals, food, per diem, insurance, sometimes you need massage therapy or an athletic trainer to come in. Like all of these things. And people are always quick to dismiss the dancers. And yet, you pay hundreds and hundreds of dollars for a tour ticket. You can watch them on HBO at home, right? Why hire the dancers? Because we elevate your show. Why hire a choreographer? Because we make you do something that you never thought you could do. We push your body, we get your stamina built, we make you perform. Sure, you've got the grace and the talent of being able to sing, but can you do anything else other than stand there behind the mic? People want to see a show. They want to see a full-rounded person. And so people like myself and Lorianne and all these other choreographers, that's what we're here to do. Sure, Beyonce is talented and great, but there's Frank Gatson, there's all these other people. Michael Jackson had Travis Payne. You know what I'm saying? And Michael Jackson's genius, but he knows that he needs somebody to help him. One, who's got their ears to the street, right? Because they can't really go out. They're not in the club. They don't know what's hot and what's popping in the new moves.
Exactly.
And they need to step out of their box and they want to make their shit look mega, really, really big. And that requires dancers, able-bodied souls who twist their bodies in the air over and over again. Sure, I'm a trained gymnast and every day of my life I've been doing backflips. But just like an NBA player, my back hurts, my knee hurts, I pull a hamstring, I twist my neck, something. And I need recovery. I need recovery time and I need a recovery person. And that's not afforded to us, Insurance, paying out of pocket. So we have to pay insurance and we're not even getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars. So the life of a dancer, which in itself is very, very short, is a tough road. And half of the dancers who are really talented really aren't working because one, they're living in Idaho somewhere. They got to get to LA. Doesn't mean that the agency's going to pick them up or that somebody's going to see them. It's a struggle.
It's a struggle. Now you mentioned MJ and I forgot that was like one of your most iconic videos. Please elaborate.
Well, MJ happened, we as in like a group of dancers from New York, there was like 12 or 15 of us hardcore dancers who had been working with like Mariah Carey and all these other people heard about the audition in LA. Fatima was choreographing, but obviously at that time she was like, you guys can come to the audition. John Singleton's going to have the last word. And what we don't realize is that, or we didn't realize that these artists, Janet, Prince, John Singleton, Michael, knew who we were because they watched music videos. Right? And I watch it the same way because I did background work. I always watch the background probably more than I watch the artist. So when John Singleton saw us all there, he was like, oh my God, the New York crew. And so then once we started like the audition process, he revamped everything, created a budget for us to stay in LA, gave us the jobs, created per diem funding for us, which was like unheard of. And he just was like, oh no, I got the best of the best. Like I need so say 12 of us came, maybe 10 of us or 11 of us got hired. Like there was pretty much all of us got hired. And it was phenomenal. This was like a month's worth of work, 2 weeks in rehearsal, 2 weeks of shooting. We never got to see Michael until a couple of days before we actually started to go to set. So we were doing we were blocking. And so when they had us sign like documents like the size of a ball.
I'm sure.
You know, don't look at him, don't talk to him, all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And so he comes in, and of course we're all like, oh my God, it's my like the thing you dream of as a kid. And he was cool. He was like light spoken and stuff. But then it's like a Tasmanian devil transformation, because once the music hits and we see him do the routine, it was like ha, 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 whatever. Wow. And it was like, no, that's what it's supposed to look like. Because ours was like cute, ha ha, he was like whack whack whack, and we was like, oh, he got work to do. He was hitting it
right.
So
maybe we had to up your game.
What? 10,000 times, like, and you could just hear him, all that stuff you hear in music videos, him just doing this and just like all, you know, the dance lingo and the cat, like all of that was just exuded out of his pores. And we were all just like, you know, when somebody has that it factor, when they and it was electricity in the room just on the first day. And so we got it together, and Michael, again, like other artists, would hang with the dancers, right? Everybody's calling him for this and nagging him for that or whatever. He just wanted to be over there working on moves with us and hanging out and talking.
Wow.
And he'd be like, fuck that, man. And we'd be like, just curse. Curse. Right? Because you forget that these people bleed the same way you do, breathe the same oxygen, sit down to go to the bathroom like he's human. And so it was just mad cool. And then to be on set during a time where John had just finished doing Boys in the Hood, right? So half the West Coast was on set every day. Magic Johnson was there, so half the NBA was there. Iman the supermodel, so all the supermodels were there every day. Actors, like it was a who's who of who's who.
Ricky was in that video too.
Exactly. Yeah. And at the unit, like, so all the comedians were like, everybody.
All the comedians were in there. Yes.
And to be at the Universal lot, not like on a guest tour, and my name is on the door and on a clothing rack, and it's like I'm driving every day to set, is the thing that little girls from Queens dream of. Like, I just got chills because I just remember, like, I was like, and I had to beg my mom for a plane ticket. I was broke. I was like, Mom, please. She was like, oh, this dance shit again.
But did you tell her it was Michael Jackson? Remember the time video?
They don't care. They're like, get a job. Right. When are you moving out? Get a job. Like,
get a job. They care less. No, Mom, this is Michael Jackson. Remember the time. Directed by John Singleton. Come on.
Oh, she's like, John Ho. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Oh, God. Next thing you know, MTV back in the day did this big old premiere, and we're all just like, I remember clustered in this room, and I remember Flex Alexander was working on TV show at the time, and that's the homie. He's also a dancer.
A dancer.
Right. So he came over to our hotel room. There was all of us just watching it, and we couldn't believe we actually made the edits. Like, we saw our face, and you're like, oh my God, there I go. Oh my God, there I go.
It's like an artist when their song is played on the radio. You're like,
because you don't know if it's going to hit the cutting room floor or not, right? People don't know. There's some of my best dance and gymnastic work and my best choreography has never seen the light of day. You know, there's so many projects because the project gets shelved. The artist never comes out. You know, they scrap the video or whatever, or you get cut from a scene and you're like, but I just did 100 backflips and it didn't.
Wow. Yeah. And then, see, now you just brought me to one of your most iconic things. I mean, God, it just keep leveling up. You just keep getting higher and higher. Was the opening to Living Single. Please tell me about that. Like, how did that happen? That iconic, you dancing under like the Brooklyn Bridge?
Yeah.
Okay, please tell us.
I was a fan of Otis Salid. Otis Salid worked under Spike Lee. I call him a directographer. So when you see like School Days, Good and Bad Hair, or that scene, or I Don't Want to Be Alone Tonight, like Otis is the one who choreographed that and shot that, and he is that guy. And so I knew he was doing Malcolm X. And so Malcolm X had this really credible Lindy Hop scene. Lindy Hop is my dream.
Oh, I love it.
Women are athletic. They're in one of my flipping. Like,
feel like I was one, but I can't even begin to do none of the moves. But I love that.
That's like I don't want that era. I just want that dance thing because we all know it was around Jim Crow and all that craziness.
Right.
So I was on tour, I think, with either Heavy or Bobby or somebody at the time. Lorianne actually, I think, was in that scene. So I went to their rehearsal, introduced me to Otis, but that was too late for me to join. I was like, oh my God. So I ended up doing extra work on the film. Lo and behold, Otis calls me out of the blue months later, and I'm just like, Otis. He's like, listen, I have this project. I want to create something for this new TV show that Queen Latifah is doing. I haven't been hired yet for the job, but I know I could sell it to them, but only you could do it. And I was like, anything to work with you, legend. Like, what? Say the right. Say less. And say less. We spent hours, literally, I'm back flipping on cobblestone under the bridge. This is when like under the bridge in Brooklyn looked like scary. You don't know who's coming where. Now it's all beautiful and Soho House and everything else. But back then it was like by the Brooklyn Navy Yard. It was like, Nightmare on Elm Street. And we shot all day until, as you can see, the sun was going down.
Right.
And so by the time I saw Otis's edit, at first I had the attitude. I was like, I don't see none of the back flips. Like there's like one version with a front flip in it. But then just because of the genius that he is, that he knows it's the nuances. It's not the big tricks. It's not all of that stuff. It's the little powerful, whatever things. And when he sold it to them, they were like, instantly he called me. He's like, we got it. I was like, what? Shut up. But it still didn't register to me that it would be as big as it was, right? Because TV shows come and go. And
it's like the most recognizable opening of a TV show. It has to be.
Can I tell you, still to this day, out of all the work that I've done, this is the one thing that people know me for. Even if you've never met me, for some reason, that silhouette, which is a whole other thing about, physical insecurities and, having broad shoulders and being so muscular and being teased or whatever. Like, that's the one thing people recognize me for.
Exactly.
Not Rap City, not Bobby, not Michael, not Whitney, but living single.
Living single. We're going to get into that. We're going to get into that, all of that, especially because that right there, just the fact that videos, hip hop videos in particular, that's what we needed in the culture because it took the genre like worldwide. So when we come back, we're going to talk more with Big Les on the culture right here on The Frequency.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Back right here in The Frequency with Big Les. We're talking about dancing. We're talking about hip hop. We're talking about some things that like I didn't even know was happening amongst the culture in particular with women and dancers. Now, one of the things that I brought up to her, to you, Les, talking to you guys, is that without the music video, hip hop wouldn't be worldwide. I mean, one of like the first videos I remember seeing, my God, it's been so long. I don't even want to say because like it's really date myself, but I know I was like so much into that. And when we talk about the videos in particular, it was Ralph McDaniels with the video music box. And I remember like just, as soon as it came on, I was sitting right there in front of the TV. I had my VCR trying to record the videos. And it was such a big like influence on me as an artist, as a fan of the music. And so when we talk about those videos and we talk about how the culture was elevated through that, we have to talk about we have to talk about the VJs. Now, when I bring up the VJs, and then when you think of VJs, like I just mentioned, Uncle Ralph, you always think about the men. We have, Fat Five Freddy. We have Ed Lover and Dr. Dre, the original Dr. Dre from Original Concept. We have, when we get into Rap City, we have, Chris Thomas, the mayor. We have Prime. We have Joe Claire. We have Big Tigger. And then we have Big Les. Let's talk about it, because you were the only woman co-host of Rap City for, I believe, 5 years, right? What's like from 7 years.
93 to end of 2000, yeah.
Oh my goodness, I didn't even realize that. I thought it was to 99, but let's get into it. First of all, how did you get the job? And then tell me about the challenges that you faced being, a Black woman hosting a hip hop show.
Well, I got the job because Madeline Woods was doing her show, Video LP, and she invited me to be a guest on her show as a dancer, and actually perform as a dancer, and then sit down on the couch and just talk to her about all the things that I had choreographed. So in me having this conversation with her on her show, the producers from Rap City came downstairs and was like, you know everybody. You work with everybody. You think you want to audition for Rap City? I was like, well, hell yeah, of course, And what's crazy is that I was in high school, I studied journalism because I was going to be this journalist. And then I took one class and I hated it, and then I switched to sports medicine, right? Hindsight's 2020, because here I am thrust back into journalism. But the problems that I had, so even though I auditioned and I did really well, and because I probably knew more information about then both of these producers and stuff, because I lived on the bus with these people. I grew up in clubs before they had their deals, and we were all friends, is that the powers that be upstairs, I didn't look the part, And it's interesting because when I say it, right, it sounds like I'm whining or I'm complaining or
not at all.
But then you hear stories from like Viola Davis and other women who have told you that this journey of colorism or not being pretty enough or being too Black and not whatever is real. Like,
it
and
really
the
is.
audacity and the arrogance, the way male executives talk to you or talk at you. And so thank God my producer, Keith Paschal, Sonita Brooks, and Eric Watson fought for me. Keith Paschal went to bat, like, listen, she knows everybody. He's got relationships with the label, blah, blah, blah. Trust me, I got this. And so after doing Prince Dejour was actually the host. And so he kind of ushered me in, and we did, I think it was like Spring Bling in Jackson.
Oh, I didn't even mention him.
Yeah. He's the one that like rolled out the red carpet for me. So we did like first interviews with Outkast, and I had relationships with the Face Records and all these other people. They were like, last. And so once they found out that I was doing a show, the artists and the labels were requesting me directly more than anyone. And they were like, okay, well, she can stay. It's like, well, she likes,
Yeah, exactly.
But again,
so you had to prove yourself as a Black woman. We got to work twice as hard and
but it's the story of my life, right? Because, and thank God, I think gymnastics has prepared me for all of that. One, I'm the only Black girl in a predominantly white sport. Two, I'm the tallest chick in the room. I'm only 5'6", but most gymnasts are 4'9", right? And I've got large breasts and big thighs. They're like, you don't do gymnastics. You don't flip. So I'm like, okay, here we go again.
I got to roll up your sleeves.
So I'm used to that, but that stuff is exhausting. You know what I'm saying?
It is exhausting
all the time. But I'm built for it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So me doing that with Rap City and being able to, like, it's always been a thing for me, never to sleep with an artist that I worked with.
Exactly.
Because you will never have that kind of control over me.
That right there.
And then now, right. And now that, oh my gosh, what's her name? She used to be head of BET. Is coming out with her book. She talked about dating. Deborah Lee. She talked about having dated Bob Johnson, and then when she wanted to move up in the ranks, he wouldn't. And when she wanted to break it off, he was like not having it. I was like that. Even before that, I was like, that will never be me, because all the stereotypes that I would hear about the business and, cocaine and drugs, I was like, nope. Plus my mother and my aunt would never have
That's that Queens right there. Because the same thing. They're saying, don't get me wrong. There was plenty of brothers that I was like, well, hello. There were plenty of artists that was like, but I did not want to cross that line, because I refused to be controlled that way. And I refused to have that be an issue. It even got to the point where I started to dress down,
Yeah.
not show so much skin, because I didn't want that to be a distraction. Not that I was ashamed of my body or didn't want to, be in my full womanhood, you know what I mean? But it was like, at the same time, I wanted to keep the focus on the music, the focus on the artist, not the focus on me. But it didn't even matter.
Right. But there's so many stigmas that come with that. One is that it discredits the fact that you have journalistic intelligence, that you know the music, that you have. I'm like, if I slept with a guy for a dance job, really? He taught me how to backflip? So I wasn't doing it since I was 10. It was because when I got this job, and I'm really good at what I do, right? Then, like you say, you have to dress yourself down. You don't want the executives being like, oh, she's sleeping with this, that, and the other. And then you and I are exposed to what's really happening in the room. You and 20 other girls who are dying to be the next Mrs. Andre 3000 or the next Mrs. Teddy Riley are throwing the snatch at them. And it's like, yeah, no, I'm not going to be that chick. And I was on the road, so I know, and I've been on tour buses, I've seen with these eyes, how grimy. So I think you and I garner a different kind of respect that I never feel threatened in a room. These guys in hip hop have sat down, and I'm sorry that I know your journey has been a little bit different because one bad apple spoiled.
Just one, because no one else has ever made me feel fear for my safety.
Yeah.
So it was just one bad apple.
And I'm so sorry. But it's a big knapsack to have to carry, to just be aware of your sexiness and all this other stuff, and guys hitting at you. And then the stigma of that comes too, that you're not they don't know who you're sleeping with. So now it's like, oh, she must be gay. Really?
Oh,
that's your coping mechanism.
Go there.
That's your
chick. I wasn't gonna go there,
but think about it too, because I'm really muscular, so it's like, oh, she's not sleeping with me, so she must be gay.
I've had that.
One, I'm not interested in you. Two, I'm sleeping with the drummer. And three, you signed my check. So
right. And they want to control you. They want to control you with that too. Because we're not going to get into, like you said, like the dirty details. But I've had artists that, they couldn't approach me that way, so they would send a woman at me, to see, well, maybe it's this, maybe it's that, and it's just like, no, it's you, Hoppy. We're not going there. We're not going there. And I've had to make it clear over and over again. But that's interesting. That's so interesting. And I'm glad you brought it up, because that's a topic that's something that we don't talk about much, is that we're pressured all the time, pressured from every direction, whether it is the producers, whether it is the camera people, the crew, or the artist.
And I've been teased about, like, I prefer Les over Leslie. Like, Leslie sounds so formal. But since elementary school, Les be friends, lesbian, like, you get teased. And so then people want to try and run with that narrative. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
But I'm sleeping with your homeboy. Like, I don't understand. What?
Yeah.
So, but that's their coping mechanism. And that's the things you have to deal with. And no matter how mature you are, certain things get at you after a while. You're just like, and I didn't even name myself Big Les. How
did you get that name?
I was working on this, I think it was a Diva video, and I had worked with this AD, Mike Ellis, and I forget who was directing, but the person they hired to do gymnastic stuff couldn't do it. And so I was like, Mike, let me do it. Just get the cameras rolling. And you'll see, it's a Diva video where I did the recreation of John Belushi's, I forget the name of the movie, where he does backflips down the church aisle.
Oh, the Blues Brothers.
Blues Brothers, right. So I ended up doing it, and you'll see it if you go to YouTube, or it's probably on my website somewhere. I actually did it, and they were like, who's the big girl doing backflips? And Mike was like, oh, that's just Les. Well, he was like, well, Big Les, come here, right? So it just stuck. And so I've tried to just go with Les or Leslie, but it just is ingrained in people's heads. And especially after doing Rap City, it stuck. So me even trying to do other shows at BET, which was also a nightmare. Once they got rid of Video Soul, they brought in myself and Brett to do a show called Unreal, I think it was, but they wouldn't let me do Rap City at the time.
Why?
2 shows, because I could only have 1 show, but then they threw in Rachel to do our show, but she still was able to keep Caribbean Rhythms and do our show. And then they started to do a late night show, and I had moved to LA. I was already doing radio at this time. I tried to do that, and then I was told, like, no, you're not what men want to see on the couch late night.
What?
I was like, wait, what?
That is insane, because, first of all, the big does fit, because you are bigger than you even know. I mean, your talent the depth of your talent is amazing. I'm sitting here in awe of you because I know you, but it's like sitting back and running through your career has like put me on a whole nother level. And I hope that the audience gets to see and witness it because it's incredible. So it should be Big Les. Your shit is big time. Okay. That's number one. Number two, you are beautiful. Okay. You are a strong, beautiful Black woman who needs to be seen. So, you know, I'm sorry that you had to go through that. And I'm sorry that that's something that a lot of Black women have to go through where we're held at a certain beauty standard, you know, whether it's colorism or, you know, our physical, you know, so.
Yeah. And it sucks because it also pits you against other women. Like, I adore Rachel, right? But one, Rachel's definitely not qualified to host a hip hop show because she would ask me, you know, for information and tidbits and all this other stuff. And I'm just like,
but she didn't know who the artists were.
You know, beautiful girl, nice girl, eye candy. I get it. Your husband works
beautiful gown. Beautiful gowns.
Yeah, your husband works for the network, whatever. But I'm out here in these trenches, and I'm not about to give you an alley-oop for a job that I should have. That's not going to happen, you know. And I got to work 3 times as hard to do what is innately in me. So it's always been, I don't whine, let me not wipe my tears. Let me just keep going. Let me just shut you up and show you what can be done and what I can do. And that's really how it's been going forward, you know. And it's a shame because especially when the gatekeepers were so many men and their male egos would be hurt. Right. They want to sleep with them and they'll be like, well, I'll show you. But if it wasn't for like the artist or the fact that the demand was really high for the talent, who knows? I might not have been working the way I was. So I'm up before everybody else. I'm in the gym at 5, 6 in the morning while you're sleeping. I'm learning new tricks. I'm getting my stamina up. I'm doing my research so that you can't come for me without, you know, it's very, very rare that I'm ill prepared for anything.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Back right here on the frequency with my guest, Big Les. We're going through the whole career and some of the challenges that we face, especially being a VJ, a female VJ. Big Les, you made me really think about a lot.
Girl, we could talk for hours about
I'm
telling you, I'm having flashbacks. You're like, I'm having triggers. You're reminding me of certain moments, things, whatever. But
yes, I had those same battles. Where just with the crew in particular and, you know, the subjects and the things that they wanted me to say and wanted me to cover, it was always a constant battle. And they had not a clue. They didn't know these people. I was their lifeline to the culture. And it was interesting because it was like me and a bunch of culture vultures, basically. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, I was always trying to right the wrongs. Like even from the very beginning, the opening of the show had some weird footage of the Ku Klux Klan and I'm pretty sure Nazi German, you know, footage, like old, you know, black and white footage. And then they threw like Martin Luther King in there. And I was like, I'm not hosting this show unless we change the opening. And he was like one of the first battles that I was like, this is ridiculous. Has nothing to do with hip hop, has nothing. And what message are you sending? It was very, very strange. Very, very strange. But we're not even going to go into that, my side. We're sticking with you because this is about platforming you and your contributions. Thank you for everything you've done with Rap City. I mean, one of the real reasons I tuned in the most was when you hosted. You know, no disrespect to the brothers, but I really, really love the way you, the comfort that you had on the mic and with the artist. And you can tell that there's a level of respect there between you and the artist. And I love that. I love watching that. It draws you in and it makes you want to see more. you know. And I also thought, even though you only took one course, and then maybe it was just your vast experience, but I also thought you did a brilliant job with the interviews. You would ask questions that a lot of other people weren't thinking about. You know what I mean?
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
yes,
I tried to get them to stop being like, you know what I'm saying, and just keep it real.
Yeah.
Like, okay, listen, we're gonna have a talk before we start this interview.
Exactly.
There'll be none of that.
Right. You just think you always made it a great conversation like we're having right now, and you made people think and want to know more and learn more. So what was your transition after Rap City? Like, I know you did radio.
Right. Radio happened while I was doing Rap City.
Oh, okay.
At Hot 97 in New York, Wendy Williams was on the air, and she had said or did something that got her put on probation for like a week or two. So they actually, you know, they would call certain TV people or artists to come in and fill in for her. So they had me fill in for her for a week. And by the end of the week, they offered me a weekend position. And then within 2 or 3 weeks, they offered me co-host position with Dr. Dre and Ed Lover on the morning show.
Nice.
And then a position opened up with Big Boy in LA when he was at Power 106. So I went to go do a week stint with him, and they were like, "We love you. Will you come?" And I was like, "Absolutely. I can shoot Rap City from here, make it a 2-for-1.
Right.
Blah. They let me start producing segments of the show at that point. So I was still able to do both at the same time. And that's kind of how radio happened. And then I got an offer from 92.3 The Beat. And they were still working on my contract, but they made me this offer I couldn't refuse. And they were also uncertain that our show was beginning to sound too Black, where Los Angeles is primarily a Latino city.
Yes.
So it only made sense for me to take that offer. And so I had my own show for quite a few years over at The Beat. And then I went over to Sirius X. Well, it was Sirius at the time. It wasn't even Sirius XM. I did Hot Jams Radio for like 7-8 years. Came back to do 100.3 The Beat with the Steve Harvey Morning Show as their entertainment reporter. And then has been doing like press junket coverage for a lot of the studios. So meaning I get to sit at these round tables talking to, you know, Matt Damon and Samuel Jackson.
Nice.
That's coming out and all those things. So it's been a really big blessing. Radio has changed so much. Terrestrial radio is not the radio it was, right? It's usually now people over 40, there's too many commercials, they play the same music. So now everybody's over at, you know, the other platforms and they're on their own playlists. And so this whole podcast world is a whole new thing too.
Yes.
Which I've done as well. I did a show called The Spin Room. I've been asked to do other few shows, but what people don't realize is that you have to really fight to get your sponsors. That means income. And I'm like, listen, ain't nobody trying to do all of that. It's like, I'm exhausted at this point.
Right.
I need a check from the jump.
That's right. From the jump. To get started.
I need my mortgage paid. Like, what are we doing?
Okay. So listen, out of your incredible career, all the things you've done, what is the one thing that you love the most?
All of it. All of it.
That's a great answer.
All of it. And I'm not even done. I haven't even finished checking off my list. I'm a gymnast at heart and a dancer at heart, but I love being on camera. I love talking to people. I talk to strangers and stuff all the time.
Yes.
But if you know me, you know I want to do action films. So when I saw I'm like, oh my God, I have to be in Woman King. So I'm trying to train and punch my agent in the face if she doesn't even get me in the room for Women King 2. Like, I need to be in that movie because it screams with my soul.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to be the new.
See that.
Me too. I was going to be the new Pam Grier. Like, you know, so that's still on my bucket list while I can still flip and tumble and all that other
Marvel
stuff.
Universe. Universe.
You know, they're giving it to Megan Thee Stallion. I'm like, I could be her mother. I don't care. Listen.
You can't be her mother. You could be her sister. And you can be her sister. Don't play. Play that Black crack. Don't play. Oh my gosh.
Well, you know, between that and then I learned from Debbie Allen now, you know, you have to transition again. I'm not going to be dancing behind, you know, Puffy on tour for the next 3 years. So
exactly.
Moving into the director space and trying to tell the stories of women in hip hop, the dancers, the VJs, all these executives and stuff. So, you know, I shot a little bit of something before the pandemic, and now I'm in pitch mode to try and get a deal because I need a deal at this point where my counterparts have, right? With Ryan Seacrest, Carson Daly, Sway, even, what's his name from one of those, Terrence J. Like, how are you getting all these first look deals or whatever? I'm not trying to just be some chick who holds the mic. Like, I need a deal of deals. I need a
I feel you on that.
I need a real deal. I need executive producer titles. Like, I need all that.
You deserve all of that. And I hope it comes to you, all of that, giving you your virtual flowers, all of that. Thank you so much. Wait, there's one more thing I do want to ask you. Any advice you would give to a young Black girl out there that wants to follow in your footsteps? What would be the one, piece of advice you would give them?
It would be 10 things, but I'll try and talk fast.
Okay, go ahead.
Move with integrity and respect for yourself. Do quality work. Do the training and the actual work, and keep doing the training, because there's somebody behind you trying to outshine you. So you got to stay on top of it. Ooh. Don't think because you have a pretty face that's all that you need to walk into the door. Make sure from the inside out, you know what you're working into. Learn in front of the camera, learn behind the camera. Be professional. Your reputation is the only thing that you have. So I don't care how good that bad looks, or the rich man who's offering or dangling you a carrot of a job or something.
Yeah.
Make things happen on your own terms, and it's okay to say no and turn things down, because what's meant for you will always be for you. Exactly. Rejection is God's protection. So even when I didn't become a fly girl and I thought my world was over, Rap City came. Right. Exactly. So just never know. Just never know.
Never know. Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much, sister. I appreciate you. That wraps it up, you guys, for the frequency. My guest, my beautiful guest, your virtual flowers are right here. She is part of the culture. She has elevated the culture, and I want to thank you for all your contributions to it. I love you.
I love you. I appreciate you. And I have to say one thing. I know that this is the alleged Hip Hop 50, and it pisses me off that the only time they recognize anything about hip hop during this year is just the people who hold the microphones music-wise. You and I hold a microphone and should be recognized. Dancers should be recognized. Dancers should be recognized. Our shows should be recognized. Only 4 major hip-hop shows on this planet that knock the world over upside down, and we need to be recognized for it. So that's all. Love you.
Yep. Love you. Love you. You're the bomb. You're the bomb. Nothing without you, yo. We standing on each other's shoulders. That's right, y'all.
Around the way, girls from Queens.
Around the way, girls from Queens. How you do? What up? So thank you, everybody, for tuning into The Frequency right here on the Black Star Network. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. And, remember, women in hip hop, we do elevate the culture. So you have to support us as we support each other. And thank you for tuning in. We out.